Welcome to this fourth deep dive in our ongoing exploration of the Arthashastra series.
Great to be back.
If you've been following along, you know we've touched on governance and the intricacies of royal power. Now, in this session, we're diving headfirst into a truly pivotal section of this ancient Indian text, Part 4.
Yeah, this one's all about building the actual state. It's called the well-organized state.
Exactly. And it feels like a real shift, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. What's fascinating for you to consider right away is how the Arthashastra pivots here. It's no longer solely about the ruler's personal attributes or, the strategies for just seizing power.
Right.
Instead, the focus sharpens onto the essential structures, the systems needed for a kingdom to not just exist, but to, well, flourish.
That makes sense.
As the text itself wisely states, and it's a point that really resonates, a king can reign only with the help of others. One wheel alone does not move a chariot.
That's a fantastic analogy. It really hits home.
Think about that for a moment in your own world. How often does success hinge on the strength of the team, the clarity of the organization?
All the time. So for you, this part is all about understanding that a ruler's strength isn't some solitary force field.
Not at all. It's fundamentally linked to how the entire state is set up and run.
It's like moving from understanding the vision of a great leader to actually seeing the detailed architectural plans of their grand design.
That's a perfect way to put it. That's what we're doing today, digging into the core components Kautilya believed were essential for a truly well-organized state.
Okay.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture for you, you'll see that the Arthashastra champions a very pragmatic, almost step-by-step approach.
Right.
Before even thinking about expanding borders or tackling external threats, the absolute priority is building a robust internal foundation.
And part 4 is where we find that foundation.
Exactly. Part 4 is where those essential building blocks are meticulously described.
And those building blocks, as our sources detail, are primarily these: establishing a well-functioning countryside, the Janapada, creating a secure and fortified capital city, and being incredibly selective about who holds high office.
Those are the big three for this section.
It's like understanding the fundamental infrastructure and the key personnel any successful organization needs, right? Whether it's a startup today or an ancient kingdom thousands of years ago.
Precisely. So for you, the central question we'll be exploring is this. What exactly did it mean for a state to be well-organized according to the Arthashastra?
What's the blueprint?
Exactly. Our sources, drawing directly from Part 4, paint a comprehensive picture. We see detailed discussions about strategically settling new lands,
Okay.
actively promoting economic activity across the kingdom, constructing robust defensive forts, carefully planning the layout and defenses of the capital city, and, crucially, the rigorous process of choosing capable and trustworthy advisors.
Okay, let's unpack this for you, starting with the fundamental need for this kind of well-defined structure.
Right.
The Arthashastra makes it crystal clear that a settled, protected, and prosperous kingdom isn't just a desirable outcome. It's an absolute prerequisite before even considering expansion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't try to scale a business with a crumbling foundation, would you?
Not likely.
The same principle applies here. Part 4 shines a light on the Janapada, the fortified city, and those key officials as the very bedrock of the state for you.
The core components.
And it's interesting to note as you delve into the text that it even mentions how some of these initial discussions will be revisited with even greater detail later on, particularly in Book 7.
Oh, okay. So it loops back.
It does. That's where you'll find the real deep dive into things like land quality assessment, different types of forts and their strategic advantages, various irrigation systems. This foreshadowing really emphasizes the systematic and interconnected nature of Arthashastra's framework for governance. It's all linked.
Right. So while later sections will give you the specifics on, say, acquiring strategically vital forts or fertile land through treaties, the immediate focus here is on taking what you already have and developing it into a secure and productive base, like a home base.
Exactly. That means actively populating those underutilized regions, building those initial fortifications and essential roads, and even beginning to conceptualize the capital city's layout.
Gotcha.
Although the finer municipal details, the nitty-gritty, come a bit later in the Arthashastra.
Oh,
What's particularly insightful for you is the sheer breadth of organization that the Arthashastra envisions. It considers every element, from the most basic arable land for farming pasture for livestock,
The essentials.
to strategically important resources like timber for construction and elephant forests for military strength. Huge for them.
Can imagine.
And, of course, the crucial infrastructure. Forts, frontier posts to guard against incursions, and well-maintained trade routes to facilitate commerce.
It's a truly holistic view of the kingdom as a single, interconnected organism for you to appreciate.
It really is.
And you touched on something really important there, even seemingly minor details, like precisely defining the boundaries of each village.
Yeah, seems small, but...
But when you look ahead to later sections, like Book 8, which deals with legal disputes, you start to see why this meticulousness was so critical.
Absolutely. It was all about proactively preventing future conflicts over land, ensuring the smooth functioning of local administration.
Makes sense. Avoid the headaches later.
Exactly. Even distinguishing between villages that paid taxes and those that were exempt, and even designating specific locations for cremation grounds, were essential for establishing clear rules and regulations down the line. Talk about thinking several steps ahead.
Seriously.
Absolutely. This level of granular detail really underscores the Arthashastra's fundamental commitment to establishing clear, unambiguous, and enforceable frameworks for governance at every single level of the state. Something that likely saved a lot of trouble later on.
Now, let's move on for you to the settlement of virgin land. This seems like a foundational step in building a prosperous Janapada, that settled countryside we've been talking about.
Definitely a key starting point.
The Arthashastra outlines a pretty active role for the king in this whole process, doesn't it? It wasn't a hands-off approach at all.
Not in the slightest. The text emphasizes for you that the king should take a proactive stance in populating the countryside.
How so?
This involved establishing entirely new villages on previously uncultivated land or even strategically revitalizing sites that had been abandoned.
So not just waiting for people to show up.
No, definitely not. This wasn't left to chance or the random movement of people.
And how is this actually accomplished, according to our sources? They mention a deliberate effort to relocate people.
Yeah, relocating people from more densely populated areas within the kingdom, and even actively encouraging, or in some cases, perhaps even mandating immigration from elsewhere.
Okay, so a mix of internal movement and bringing people in.
Yes, there's a clear and deliberate strategy laid out for you. The primary settlers were to be Sudra agriculturists, those skilled in farming.
Right, the farmers.
And the size of these newly established villages was quite specific, ranging from 100 to 500 families.
It's quite a range.
It is. And importantly, the locations were chosen strategically with an eye towards mutual protection among the settlements. It wasn't simply about filling empty spaces on a map.
Security was built in from the start.
Definitely. And these new villages needed clearly defined boundaries, didn't they? Marked by natural features like rivers and mountains.
Makes sense.
Which makes sense, but also by man-made markers like embankments and even specific types of trees.
Trees, interesting.
Yeah. And these village territories were quite substantial, often spanning 1 or even 2 crosses significant distances.
So pretty large areas per village.
The text is remarkably precise about this for you, which again highlights the paramount importance of preventing future boundary disputes and establishing clear administrative units right from the outset. Interestingly, the Arthashastra advises against establishing settlements in areas that were particularly vulnerable.
Like what?
Areas prone to enemy attacks, the presence of potentially hostile jungle tribes, disease outbreaks, or the risk of famine.
Common sense, really.
Pretty much. It also cautioned against incurring excessive costs in the settlement process. It's a very pragmatic and risk-aware approach to territorial expansion and population management.
It sounds like a carefully planned administrative hierarchy was also put in place as these settlements grew.
Yes, absolutely.
And the Janapada expanded, with terms like Sangrahana, Karvatika, Dronamuka, and Stanya representing different levels of administrative centers. Can you break down for us how that tiered system would have functioned?
Certainly. Think of it like a pyramid of authority for you. At the base, the Sangrahana would oversee a cluster of about 10 villages, a local hub.
Okay, 10 villages.
Stepping up, the Karvatika would encompass 200 villages, representing a more significant administrative unit.
200, getting bigger.
Above that, the Dronamuka would govern 400 villages.
400.
And at the highest tier within this specific structure was the Stanya, responsible for a substantial 800 villages.
800, that's a lot.
It is. This tiered structure, from those small local groupings up to these larger regional centers, allowed for efficient administration, streamlined communication, effective oversight.
Crucial for a growing kingdom.
Absolutely. And crucially, as the frontier expanded, fortresses under the command of specifically appointed chiefs were established to act as the kingdom's first line of defense.
Makes sense. Secure the borders.
And it wasn't just about these formal fortifications. The area between these fortified frontiers and the newly established villages wasn't left entirely unprotected either, was it?
No. What else was there?
Our sources mention a fascinating array of people tasked with security trappers, archers, hunters, even groups like the Candelas and various forest tribes.
Wow, so it's a kind of layered security approach, not just soldiers and forts.
It does indeed seem that way. And the Arthashastra also details specific policies regarding land grants for you.
Ah, right. Land ownership. Always important.
Very. Brahmins, particularly those recognized as teachers, priests, and experts in the Vedic scriptures, were granted land with significant privileges.
Like what kind of privileges?
Exemptions from both taxes and fines, and the land was even hereditary, passed down through their families.
Hereditary, too. That's significant.
It is. This likely served to support the intellectual, spiritual, and cultural life of the kingdom, creating a class dedicated to learning and religious observance.
But it wasn't solely religious figures who benefited from these land grants, was it?
No, not at all.
It sounds like key government officials were also incentivized through land ownership, though with some important conditions attached.
That's right. Heads of various government departments, accountants, local record keepers, gopas, divisional officers, stanikas, even doctors, couriers, horse trainers.
A wide range of officials.
Yes, all received land grants. However, and this is a key distinction for you, this land could not be freely bought, sold, or mortgaged.
So tied to their job.
Exactly. It was tied to their service to the state, likely as a form of compensation and to ensure their continued loyalty and performance.
That makes perfect sense. A way to reward service while ensuring land remained under the ultimate authority of the state.
Precisely.
And what about the general tax-paying cultivators? What was the arrangement for them regarding land ownership?
For the vast majority of agriculturalists who were subject to taxation, arable land was typically allotted for their lifetime only for you.
Lifetime use, not ownership.
Generally, yes. This provision likely served to prevent the concentration of land in the hands of a few and ensured that the state retained ultimate authority.
Smart.
However, there were important safeguards in place. If someone took unarable land and, through their own hard work and investment, made it cultivable, that improved land could not be arbitrarily taken away from them.
Oh, good. So rewarding effort.
Absolutely. This provided a crucial incentive for agricultural innovation and land improvement for you to understand.
That's a really smart way to incentivize land development.
Yeah.
And what happened to land that was officially allotted to someone but wasn't actually being cultivated?
Good question.
It sounds like the state had mechanisms in place to ensure land productivity and prevent hoarding.
Absolutely. Uncultivated allotted land was subject to confiscation for you. It could then be given to someone else willing to work it, or even cultivated directly by village employees or merchants acting for the state.
So use it or lose it, basically.
Pretty much. Interestingly, the original LAT could even be held liable for any loss of revenue the state incurred due to their failure to cultivate the land.
Wow, okay. Real pressure to produce.
There was a clear and strong emphasis on ensuring that arable land was actively being used. And for those new settlers we talked about earlier, the state even provided crucial initial support, grains, cattle, even money to get them established.
Like a startup package for farmers.
Kind of. And the repayment terms for this initial aid were designed to be flexible, allowing the new farmers to become self-sufficient before being burdened with debt. A very forward-thinking approach.
It seems like the Arthashastra also recognized the importance of attracting the right kind of settlers and actively discouraging those who might be disruptive.
Yes, definitely.
There were specific categories of undesirable settlers mentioned, like certain ascetics, foreigners, some cooperatives. What can you tell us about these exclusions?
This really highlights the state's deep concern with maintaining social order, religious harmony, and preventing potential internal disruptions for you.
Okay.
The exclusion of certain ascetic groups likely stemmed from a desire to maintain the established religious and social hierarchy. Caution towards foreigners not born in the country could have been about loyalties or integration.
Right.
And the wariness of certain cooperatives, probably related to ensuring collective efforts, were genuinely aimed at agricultural development, not other potentially subversive activities.
Got it. Control was key.
However, it's important for you to note that the Arthashastra also advocated for peaceful coexistence between existing ascetic groups and any legitimate newcomers.
So not totally exclusionary.
No. There was even a mechanism for expelling those who actively caused conflict. Furthermore, there was a specific focus on preventing misconduct among mendicant orders to avoid undermining social norms.
And it's fascinating for you to learn that these new settlements were initially designed without recreational facilities or buildings.
Yeah, that's quite striking.
The primary focus was purely on work, specifically agricultural productivity. Actors, dancers, entertainers were actively discouraged from hindering labor.
All about maximizing output.
The explicit goal was to maximize the availability of labor in the fields, seen as directly leading to an increase in labor, money, goods, grains, essential resources.
It's a very utilitarian and economically driven approach to developing new territories. The economic base was paramount.
And when it came to strategically choosing land for settlement for you, the Arthashastra had very clear preferences.
Oh, yes. Land with reliable water, capable of 2 crops annually, especially grains.
Makes sense.
Ideally located near existing elephant forests for military resources, and established trade routes for economic activity were highly favored.
Prime real estate, basically.
Exactly. Even more challenging tracts weren't simply ignored. The Arthashastra suggests a pragmatic approach. They'll sell difficult land to those likely to fail.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Then the state could potentially reacquire it later under more favorable terms.
Huh. Cunning.
Very pragmatic. Moving on for you to the crucial aspect of promoting economic activity.
Yeah.
The Arthashastra really underscores its fundamental importance, even calling it the very root of wealth.
Can't function without it.
Right. The absence of robust economic activity is presented as a major threat to both the prosperity and the overall growth of the kingdom.
So how do they promote it?
Absolutely. The text explicitly states for you that a king's power and influence are directly enhanced by actively promoting the welfare and economic well-being of his people, with the Janapada, that settled countryside, being identified as the primary engine of all economic activity. It wasn't just about taxes, it was about actively fostering a thriving economy.
And the key elements that the Arthashastra highlights for this promotion included strategically important forts,
Safe havens, yeah.
essential waterworks for irrigation,
Huge for agriculture.
protected trade routes for merchants and war materials, accessible mines for resources, and productive forests for timber and elephants.
It's a truly comprehensive strategy touching upon vital sectors.
Indeed.
Right.
And crucially for you to understand, the Arthashastra emphasizes that agriculture, the backbone, was to be actively protected.
How so?
Protected from excessive fines, burdensome taxes, and unreasonable demands for forced labor.
Okay, so supporting the farmers, yes. The text stresses not only maintaining existing productive resources, forests, reservoirs, mines, but also actively establishing new ones.
Like what?
Developing manufacturing centers, creating market towns, constructing ports, and establishing and maintaining both land and water trade routes, connecting everything.
The state's proactive role in building and supporting waterworks for irrigation seems particularly significant for an agrarian society.
It was massive.
They were even willing to provide resources like land, timber, implements to individuals or communities who undertook this crucial infrastructure development.
That shows a real commitment. Water management was clearly identified as a top priority.
Right.
And it's interesting for you to observe how the text addressed situations where people might be reluctant to participate in cooperative reservoir building.
What happened then?
In such cases, those who refused to contribute were still obligated to provide labor and share in the costs, but would not receive any share of the benefits derived from the reservoir.
Huh. So you pay anyway, but get nothing.
Exactly. Highlights the communal aspect and the state's role in ensuring completion. The king even asserted ownership over resources like fish and vegetables harvested from these state-supported reservoirs.
Okay. Land allocation wasn't just for agriculture and settlements, was it?
No, other uses too.
Our sources mention land for cattle pastures on uncultivable land was also specifically allotted.
Correct.
And great emphasis was placed on actively protecting these vital herds from threats, ensuring a stable supply of livestock.
Very important. And demonstrating a broader understanding beyond just economic productivity, the Arthashastra even mandated providing forest land.
Sure.
Of a significant size, at least one Garuda, for ascetics and Vedic scholars.
Oh, okay. Why?
Specifically intended for cultivating soma plants, for rituals, for Vedic learning, with the guarantee of safety for those residing there.
Supporting the religious and scholarly side.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the needs of religious figures. The Arthashastra also mentions establishing similarly sized recreational forests, specifically for the king's enjoyment,
Ah, the royal perks.
as well as creating animal sanctuaries, often located near the kingdom's frontiers. These could have served multiple purposes, leisure, maybe strategic too. Indeed. Efficient resource management also required demarcating specific forest areas for particular produce and establishing settlements for foresters near these productive zones, ensuring supply chains. Furthermore, recognizing the immense strategic value of elephants.
And forget the elephants.
Never. The Arthashastra mandated creating protected elephant forests, ideally on the border, supervised by a dedicated chief elephant forester, often buffered by other forests for added protection.
Wow, Chief Elephant Forester. That's a title.
It certainly is. Throughout all of this focus on building a strong internal economy, the Arthashastra consistently emphasizes the crucial need to protect trade routes from harassment or damage.
It's essential for commerce.
Absolutely. And to further encourage economic activity, the Arthashastra even suggests showing special favors to those who actively contributed to the countryside's well-being.
Like rewards.
Kind of. Those who built infrastructure like embankments, bridges, beautified villages, or provided protection might get special consideration, an incentive system.
A system designed to foster a thriving Janapada.
That was the goal.
Shifting gears slightly for you, Part 4 also lays out some fundamental rules of society, considered necessary for maintaining good order.
Yeah, the social fabric.
While the detailed legal framework is explored elsewhere, these foundational principles give us a glimpse into the social values being promoted.
Yes, these foundational rules for you included enforcing discipline within families, among slaveholders, and for mortgaged persons.
Okay, maintaining hierarchy.
And significantly, the state itself took on responsibility for the welfare of its most vulnerable members, unsupported children, the elderly, the destitute, the suffering, childless women, children of destitute women.
So a kind of social safety net.
It appears so. All were to be maintained at the state's expense. This speaks to a strong sense of social responsibility embedded within the vision.
And it wasn't just the state. Village elders were entrusted with important roles, too.
Yes, acting as trustees for temple property and managing inheritances for minors.
Community responsibility.
And there were clear legal obligations on every man to financially maintain his wife, children, parents, dependent minor brothers, and unmarried or dependent sisters.
Wow, very specific.
Very, with a specific exception for those excommunicated, though even they still had to support their mothers.
Interesting detail about the mother.
What's particularly interesting for you is the explicit prohibition against a man renouncing his householder life to become an ascetic without first making adequate financial provision for his family.
Can't just walk away.
Nope. Similarly, inducing childbearing women into asceticism was forbidden. Even men past sexual activity needed judges' approval to renounce family life, ensuring family provision.
So family responsibility was paramount.
These rules really underscore the strong emphasis on fundamental responsibilities towards family and maintaining social stability.
The construction of forts was, of course, absolutely critical for defense.
Foundational.
The Arthashastra specifically mandates building 4 frontier forts, 1 in each cardinal direction in naturally defensible locations. Why these frontier forts?
These were the first line of defense for you. Crucial strongholds to repel invasions and protect the borders. Their strategic placement maximized effectiveness.
Makes sense.
And it's interesting that the Arthashastra even categorizes 8 different kinds of forts based on their natural defenses.
8 types.
Ranging from land forts, considered easiest to capture, to mountain forts, deemed the most difficult and preferable for a king under siege.
So a hierarchy of forts.
Exactly. This detailed classification reveals a sophisticated understanding of military strategy and the importance of terrain.
Roads are often described as the arteries of any functioning state.
True.
The Arthashastra provides surprisingly specific details about their construction, including precisely prescribed widths for various types of roads. Can you give us a sense of this planning?
The level of detail is truly remarkable for you. The royal highways, the main arteries, were specified to be a substantial 54 feet wide.
54 feet.
Yeah.
That's wide.
Huge for the time. Roads to divisional or provincial HQs. Countryside roads, pasture roads, port cantonment roads, even village roads and cremation ground paths, all 54 feet.
Wow. Standardization.
Then a narrower category at 27 feet for forest roads, reservoir embankment roads, and city roads.
Okay.
Even narrower. Elephant forest roads at 13.5 feet, chariot roads at 7.5, cattle paths 3 3/4, and footpaths just 1 7/8 feet wide.
Incredible detail. It really demonstrates a deep understanding of the diverse transport needs and a commitment to building functional infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Finally, we arrive at what was considered the heart of the kingdom, the capital city itself.
The nerve center.
The Arthashastra dedicates significant attention to its strategic selection, elaborate fortification, and carefully planned internal layout. What were the key considerations?
Location choice was paramount for you. Selecting a site in the very center of the country, chosen by building experts possessing natural advantages like a river confluence or perennial lake for water supply.
Water is key.
Always, ideally near an artificial tank shaped by the land with canals, and crucially, well served by both land and water trade routes, making it a natural hub, perhaps incorporating an existing market town.
And the defenses of this central capital were nothing short of formidable, were they?
Oh, absolutely. Intense.
I recall reading about multiple moats and elaborate ramparts. Can you paint a picture?
Absolutely. The Arthashastra mandates for you not 1, but 3 surrounding moats. 3. Filled with water, ideally from springs or diverted in, adorned with lotuses, and stocked with crocodiles.
Crocodiles, seriously.
As a natural deterrent, the earth dugout was used for a massive rampart planted with thorny bushes and poisonous creepers. Another obstacle.
Layer upon layer.
Surplus earth leveled the ground. The rampart top had rounded stones, maybe hard to climb, and even palm trunk tracks for chariots moving along the defenses.
Chariots on the ramparts. Wow, that sounds incredibly well planned.
Yeah.
And what about the walls and towers themselves?
On top of the rampart, a substantial parapet, stone or brick, no wood, due to fire risk. 18 to 36 feet high, breadth half the height. Solid barrier. Strengthened with turrets and square towers at intervals for vantage points.
Okay.
Between towers, high wooden boards with archer holes and covers, strong, outward projecting planks to stop climbers.
Anti-climbing measures.
Also, attack paths for defenders, a secret escape door, a main exit in an unassailable part. Even defensive structures like speed bumps and concealed traps outside the rampart.
Thinking of everything.
And the main gateway was complex. A tower with multiple levels, hall, border post below, upper chambers, turret above, main and side doors, elephant defenses, a removable bridge.
Removable bridge. Classic.
And arms stored in pits within the ramparts, ready for defenders. Even alternative gateway designs based on space materials. Gopura, Pushkarini, Kumarapura, Mundaka. Similar forts on the frontiers, too.
And the planning didn't stop at the outer defenses, did it? What about the internal layout?
Inside the fortifications, the city layout was also meticulous for you. Organized around a grid, 6 main royal roads, 3 east-west, 3 north-south, intersecting at 12 gates.
A grid system.
With provisions for water supply, drainage for sanitation, covered passages for movement, the royal buildings were central, north of the city's absolute center, occupying 1/9 of residential space, emphasizing the king's presence.
Prime location.
Furthermore, the governor-general of the city was instructed to locate those working with fire blacksmiths, potters together in designated areas, a crucial fire safety measure.
Very practical.
Shrines to victory gods, temples of Siva, Lakshmi, Vaishravana, Ashvins, Kali in the city center, tutelary deities in different sectors, guardian deities at the 4 main gates, spiritual protection too.
Covering all bases.
Interestingly, structures were also planned outside the walls, about 600 feet from the moats. Sanctuaries, holy places, groves, waterworks, even cremation grounds carefully located. Higher Varna's northeast, lower Varna's south, reflecting social hierarchy.
The Arthashastra truly seems to have considered every aspect of creating a secure and functional capital. What about daily life and security within the walls?
Within the capital, each household got a specific plot for work, allowed to grow flowers, fruits if authorized. Water management. Roughly 10 houses per well.
Practical.
Recognizing supply importance, storage of essentials, oils, grains, sugar for years of consumption was mandated, with constant replacement to prevent spoilage.
Strategic reserves.
The armed forces, elephants, chariots, cavalry, infantry, each under multiple chiefs. A deliberate check on power, ensuring mutual control.
Divide and command.
To maintain order, Harmful outsiders weren't allowed in the city, directed to countryside, or taxed. Even specific groups like heretics and candelas resided in allotted lands beyond cremation grounds, segregating potentially disruptive elements.
Strict controls. This brings us to the vital aspect of governance, selecting royal counselors and ministers. Part 4 dedicates significant attention to this.
Absolutely critical. The Arthashastra begins by emphasizing that the king's work covers what he sees directly, learns indirectly, and infers.
A lot to manage.
Exactly. Given the multifaceted nature of governing, ministers were essential for effective and timely implementation.
And the text delves into various perspectives on appointing these crucial counselors, presenting different schools of thought. Can you outline some?
Certainly. Haradvaja suggested appointing classmates' shared experience. Vishasha favored those involved in secret activities trust built on confidentiality.
Interesting contrast.
Parsara's followers in Pisuna stressed proven loyalty. Pisuna also argued for revenue generation ability. Kanapadanta suggested hereditary families' tradition and experience.
Okay.
Bhattavyadi proposed new blood with political skill. Bahudantaputra argued for practical experience. Finally, Bahudantaputra and Kautilya himself synthesized the ideal: noble, wise, integral, brave, loyal.
A combination of qualities.
It's a fascinating insight into the different philosophies around selecting advisors back then.
And Kautilya, in his synthesis, essentially argues that all these perspectives have relevance depending on circumstance.
What context matters.
But he ultimately places the strongest emphasis on those high personal qualities: nobility, wisdom, integrity, bravery, unwavering loyalty as most crucial.
Precisely. The Arthashastra then stresses careful deliberation on any significant undertaking for you. Tasks initiated only after securing allegiance at home and considering impact on enemies.
Planning ahead.
And it cautions against heeding advice from those ignorant of political science principles.
Makes sense. Seek qualified counsel. Secrecy in these high-level deliberations is also presented as absolutely vital.
Paramount.
The Arthashastra outlines rather elaborate measures. What were some precautions?
The text describes holding discussions in a secret, heavily guarded place. No possibility of being overheard, not even by birds or animals.
Wow. Extreme secrecy.
Unauthorized persons strictly prohibited. Vigilance over participants even before work began. It even identifies causes of betrayal: carelessness, intoxication, sleep-talking, amorous pursuits, inherent secretiveness, past contempt.
Analyzing the risks.
Even advised observing envoys, ministers, chiefs for abnormal behavior indicating leaks, and the consequence for betrayal: severe, being torn to pieces.
Yikes. Okay. The Arthashastra also explores the ideal number of advisors. Varying opinions here, too.
Yes, a range for you. Haradvaja argued for deliberating alone, absolute secrecy. Vishalaksha countered, needing multiple advisors for complete understanding.
Different approaches.
Parsara's followers suggested indirect questioning for secrecy. Pisuna advocated consulting only those directly involved.
And what was Kautilya's perspective on the optimal number?
Kautilya, pragmatically, suggests a maximum of 3 or 4 counselors is ideal for you.
Why 3 or 4?
He reasons one advisor is risky limits perspective. 2 might collude or conflict. More than 2 becomes hard to control, increasing secrecy risk.
Finding a balance.
But Kautilya also acknowledges the king might consult 1, 2, or none, depending on the work and circumstances. He advises seeking opinions individually and as a group, always asking for the reasoning.
Thorough process. The Arthashastra also outlines key aspects for deliberations. Main points.
Key aspects for you: clearly defining objectives, determining effective means, assessing resources, considering time and place, and crucially, developing contingency plans.
Plan B.
Always. Text advises against undue delay and consulting those adversely affected, as their input might be biased.
The role of ministers is also defined, primarily as executing policies. The ideal number discussed again.
Yes. No single consensus for you. Manu suggested 12, Brihaspati 16, Ushana's 20. Kautilya, more pragmatically, said the number depends on state needs.
Flexible.
He even uses the analogy of Indra's 1,000 eyes, implying comprehensive oversight. Regardless of number, ministers should consider kings' and enemies' interests, initiate unfinished tasks, continue ongoing ones, improve completed works, ensure order compliance.
Active management.
King to supervise nearby ministers personally, communicate with distant ones via letters. In emergencies, consult both counselors and ministers, follow majority or most conducive advice.
The process of investigating potential ministers before appointment sounds incredibly rigorous, like a background check on steroids.
It was very thorough for you, verifying nationality, family background, reputation for discipline via reliable sources. Experts, tested knowledge.
Testing skill.
Evaluating intelligence, perseverance, dexterity via past performance. Eloquence, boldness, presence of mind via interview. Observing interactions for energy, endurance, integrity, loyalty, friendliness.
Covering all bases.
Inquiring about strength, health, character from close friends. Assessing amiability and lack of hatred via personal observation.
Wow. Very comprehensive vetting.
Yeah.
And the Arthashastra doesn't stop there. It also outlines testing their integrity after appointment. These secret tests sound fascinating.
These post-appointment tests assess susceptibility to temptations for you. Tests based on the 4 pursuits: dharma, duty; artha, wealth; kama, pleasure; and fear.
How did that work?
Ancient teachers suggested assigning duties based on test results. Dharma strong for judicial law, artha strong for chancellor-treasurer, kama inclined for recreation control, fear susceptible near the king for loyalty control.
Matching roles to personality.
Success in all tests meant ideal counselor. Failure in all meant difficult posts like mines forests. However, Kautilya cautions against using the king or queen as bait. Could be seen as manipulative, and warns against corrupting the uncorrupted. Instead, suggests using an outsider as reference, investigating via secret agents.
More subtle investigation. The Arthashastra also includes advice for those seeking service with a king. What guidance is provided?
Text advises experienced individuals seeking service for you to be strategic. Seek kings with high personal qualities and a well-run state.
Choose your boss wisely.
Pragmatically, one might serve a ruler lacking some attributes if they have leadership and accessibility, but firmly warns against serving a king with bad character destined to perish. Risky association.
What kind of behavior was expected during an audience hoping for a position?
After audience, engage the king in political science discussion, demonstrating knowledge for you. Position secure only if ruler agrees with your understanding. Reply briefly to intelligent questions, adhering to dharma and artha fearlessly.
Confidence and competence.
Yeah.
And if offered a position, any conditions advised.
Yes, if offered a post, suggests for use stipulating conditions. King not heed advice from unqualified, those with strong support not punished arbitrarily. Consideration for appointees' livelihood, secrecy, protection of associates, setting boundaries.
Establishing expectations. Once appointed, what behavior was expected in daily interactions?
Detailed guidance for you. Stay near king, but not too close. Avoid sly talk against others, untrue, uncultured statements, loud laughter without cause, uncouth behavior, spitting, etc., secret talks, public quarrels, overdressing, openly asking favors, unseemly gestures, winking, etc., interrupting, antagonizing powerful, associating with disreputable.
A long list of don'ts.
Also advised to steer king from evil talk. Avoid evil words oneself. Tolerate insults with forbearance.
What about the crucial responsibility of giving advice? Principles.
Emphasizes for you advice always according to dharma and artha. Speak promptly if in king's interest. With friends if known. At appropriate time, place if others. Offer good and pleasing advice when asked. Never harmful advice, just to please.
Balancing truth and diplomacy.
May give private, displeasing but good advice with permission. May remain silent, never say unwelcome things. Notes competent but unwelcome speakers may be cast out, while agreeable but undesirable ones become favorites. Delicate balance.
Given the potential pitfalls, Arthashastra offers advice on survival. Key recommendations.
Frankly, state service under a king is perilous for you. Wise men prioritize self-protection. Diligently report net income after expenses for assigned tasks. Transparency.
Accountability.
Advise on work details. City, country, open, covert, urgent, postponable. Watch king's harmful activities. Hunting, gambling, drinking, women. Try dissuading via flattery. Guard against intrigues. Observe king's gestures, expressions for true feelings.
Reading the room or the king.
Attune to subtle signs of satisfaction, dissatisfaction. Text even gives examples of courtiers leaving based on subtle hints. If deprived of wealth, honor, resign or reform based on understanding king. May seek friends' intervention, otherwise return only after king's death.
Wow. Intense political survival guide. Finally, Part 4 delves into the highest level officials, the Mahamatras, 18 mentioned. Hierarchy and functions.
Does list 18 Mahamatras, but not all at absolute highest level for you. Rank inferred from salary duties. Samaharpal, Chancellery Revenue, Law Order, Secret Service, very high. Heads of Treasury Granaries, subordinate to Samnhatar, Treasurer.
And the absolute top tier in salary and influence.
Highest salary, 48,000 panas. King's counselors, max 4, 1 royal scribe, king's mother, principal queen, crown prince, duties limited, sometimes alternative to chief of defense. Sacrificial priest, king's guru, purohita, chaplain, chief of defense, indicates immense importance.
Below this top tier, another significant level.
Next level, 24,000 panas. Dovarika, chamberlain, king's program, comfort, valley barber supplies. Antarvamsika, inner palace official appointments, commander of king's own guards. Prazaster, unclear, possibly judiciary city admin, treasurer or chancellor. Dovarika and Antarvamsika, key in succession during king's illness. Close relationship.
And other important officials with slightly lower but still significant salaries.
Yes, 12,000 panas. Provincial frontier governors. High salary reflects importance of loyalty administration in distant regions. Chief controller and auditor, also crucial, reported directly to king. Bookkeeping, accounts, fraud. Salary likely higher than other debt heads.
Got it.
Royal scribe, 48,000 panas, also counselor, wrote treatise on royal edicts. Note, civilian officials here, military in Book 11, mentions Sunyapala, temporary charge during king's absence. Viceroy, target for subversion. Nayaka, Prazaster, Antipala, also in Book X War, likely military officers. No separate diplomatic service. Envoys chosen from high officials, dubies in Book X. Precise ID of 18 Mahamachos varies among translators.
The role of the Purohita, the royal chaplain, seems particularly significant. Qualifications and responsibilities.
Immense respect influence for you. Highest family, exemplary character, Vedic scholar, omen expert, political science knowledge, expiatory rights capability. King to follow him like pupils and servant.
High regard.
High pay, but no direct admin role. Considerable influence. Consulted on minister appointments. Even for treason, not killed but imprisoned, exiled. Sacred status. Present when king received Brahmins ascetics, used to test ministers, accompanied king on expeditions, gave encouraging talks.
Another key figure, the royal scribe. Qualifications, importance, royal edicts.
Similar qualifications to counselor, intelligence, integrity, loyalty, plus thorough knowledge of conventions, quick composition, good handwriting, able to read documents. Primary responsibility. Transcribe king's instructions precisely.
The critical role.
Royal edicts, sasna, incredibly important, issuing commands, administering state, peace war resting on them, general principles, tone befitting recipient, caste, family status, etc. Good edict. Topical order, consistency, completeness, sweetness, dignity, lucidity. Avoid defects, bad paper writing, contradiction, repetition, bad grammar, confusion.
Quality control for decrees.
9 types of edicts. Informatory, commands, awards, exemptions, authorizations, guidance, response, proclamations, writings, securing loyalty. Each with purpose. Standard composition. Salutation, polite terms, subject matter, 13 types. Derogatory remarks, praise, query, statement, request, refusal, reproof, prohibition, command, conciliation, help, offer, menace, propitiation. Conclusion, thus in the words of, plus king's name title.
The treasurer and chancellor. Crucial for finance and administration. Let's start with the treasurer's key duties.
Treasurer first, incorruptible for you. Responsibilities.
Yeah.
Construct, maintain storehouses, treasury, warehouse, granary, forest produce store, ordnance depots, jails, with specific designs, underground rooms, brick buildings, sheds, underground armory, separate prisons, wells, latrines, fire poison protection, shrines, pest control, cats, mongooses. Secret treasury on border, convict labor.
Elaborate storage.
2. Receive, store government property. Gems, metals, articles, forest produce, with tools experts, trustworthy assistants, in charge of all prisons, accept only genuine coins, certified by chief coin examiner, counterfeits destroyed, accept clean, full measure, new grain.
Quality control again.
Thorough knowledge of city, countryside, receipts, disbursements, income, expenditure, balance up to 100 years. Long-term view. 4. Discipline. Censure for loss via ignorance, whipping for deliberate loss, a betters half punishment.
Strict accountability. And the chancellor. Principal responsibilities. How different from treasurer?
Chancellor, also incorruptible, broader role, revenue generation, overall admin, countryside order for you, key duties. Revenue collection, towns, countryside, mines, irrigation, forests, trade routes, budget preparation, detailed accounting. Wise chancellor increases income, reduces expenditure, takes remedial action.
Financial management.
2. Administration of countryside, Janapada. Divides into 4 provinces. Sthanika governor per province, Gopa record keeper per 5-10 villages. Maintain detailed records, villages, capacity tax status, soldier commodity supply, land, numbered plots, use, houses, numbered tax status inhabitants, Varna, occupation, demographics, history, income expenditure, livestock taxes. Used for disputes, transactions. Magistrates inspect, ensure proper tax collection, inspect emergency dues.
Credible record keeping.
Control. Diligent Janapada admin uses secret agents to monitor state servants. 4. Eliminating antisocial persons, corrupt officials, extortionists, perjurers, witches, poisoners, counterfeiters, exiled or compensated relocated, arrested thieves, robbers paraded publicly, proclaiming king's effectiveness, even minor thefts paraded to show power. Forest bandits, criminal tribes caught with stolen goods, parodied.
Public shaming as deterrent.
Control over government servants via magistrates, inspects debt heads, judicial officers, responsible for ensuring farmers cultivate summer crops, seeking voluntary contributions in emergencies.
The Governor General of the city sounds very important for managing the capital. Key responsibilities and qualifications.
Similar qualifications to Chancellor, maybe slightly junior for you. Responsibilities centered on order, security, civic affairs of capital. Key aspect: meticulous record keeping. Divide city into 4 parts, governors, under whom are record keepers, Kopas, for 1040 families. Demographics, Varna, occupation, income, expenditure.
More detailed records.
Other duties: control charitable lodging houses, regulate visitors, control trade, fair prices, stolen goods prevention, maintain law or order, curfew, ensure fire precautions equipment, sanitation, cleanliness, cremation grounds, prisons, custody of lost property.
Managing city life.
Significant focus on fire prevention. Locate fire workers together, remove thatch, thousands of water jars at key locations, daily inspection of reservoirs, roads, drains, ramparts, control city guards, punish transgressions.
The chief controller and auditor. Essential for financial accountability, preventing corruption. Main duties.
Pivotal role in financial integrity for you. Responsibilities. 1. Construct, maintain records office. Northeast facing, separate accountant seats, orderly shelves. 2. Maintain records, consolidated account book per debt, activity, income. Manufacturing, raw materials, consumption, stock, labor wages. Stores, price, quality, quantity, container description. Region, village, caste, family, guild, rule book, customary laws. Crown servants, grants, titles, gifts, allowances, salary. Royal household gifts, allowances, emergency funds. Foreign affairs, peace war payments, receipts. Closing day, full moon of Asada, June, July, 354-day year, separate intercalary month book.
Immense amount of data.
3. Rule compilation, all fixed rules and conventions. 4. Inspection, appoints high, middle, low inspectors based on revenue capacity. Inspectors chosen from those king will punish for revenue loss. Controller uses spies to watch departments. Independent oversight.
Checks and balances.
5. Audit. On closing day, all accounts officers present sealed books balances. Controller audits thoroughly, daily to annual totals, physical verification of balances before treasury deposit. High officials also render full accounts. Reporting to king, compiles estimate habitual outstanding revenue, income, expenditure, balance per department, reports on account presentations, government activities, ensuring king has clear financial picture.
Frontier officers. Strategically important role managing borders and trade. Main duties.
Held crucial position for you. Salary 12,000 panas. Maintain security, generate revenue, control flow across borders. Key duties. 1. Defense, in charge of frontier forts. 2. Revenue. Levy road cess vartani on traffic, create control of caravans, examine foreign goods, classify value, seal packages, issue passes, send info to Chief Collector of Customs. Responsible for merchandise safety, compensate for loss theft under their protection.
Gatekeepers of trade and security. And finally, the Rashtrapala, also 12,000 panas. Responsibilities.
Specific duties not detailed in Part 4 for you. Context suggests Rashtrapala likely refers to Thanika, provincial governor, under the chancellor. Responsibilities likely focused on administering his province. Lawward, revenue collection, implementing royal decrees provincially.
So as you can see, this deep dive into Part 4 of the Arthashastra reveals a meticulously planned approach to state building.
He really does.
From the granular details of village settlements and road construction, to the complex strategies for managing the economy and selecting trustworthy officials, the underlying principle for you is creating a strong, stable, and ultimately prosperous kingdom.
What's particularly insightful for you is how many of these seemingly ancient ideas, the fundamental importance of economic activity, the absolute need for well-defined administrative structures, clear lines of authority, the careful and rigorous selection and ongoing oversight of those in power, still resonate.
They really do feel timeless in some ways.
Right. The Arthashastra wasn't just theoretical philosophy, it was a highly practical, detailed guide to wielding and maintaining power effectively, lessons from which, continue to hold relevance.
We truly hope this exploration has provided you with a much clearer understanding of the foundational elements of statecraft as envisioned in this incredibly influential work.
Yeah, it's dense stuff, but Fascinating.
It certainly prompts us to consider the enduring challenges and timeless principles involved in organizing human societies, no matter the era.
What specific aspects of this deep dive sparked your curiosity the most? Are there any parallels or contrasts you see in today's world that we didn't specifically touch upon?
Good questions for our listeners.
We strongly encourage you to continue exploring these fascinating ideas and perhaps even delve into the Arthashastra itself. It is a truly rich and rewarding source of insight into the art of governance and statecraft.
Absolutely. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the Arthashastra series and uncover more of its enduring wisdom.